Hello, space fans. This is Greg Allison, Galactic Gregs, coming to you here in the wee hours. We just got news earlier today. Boeing announced to its employees that they were at risk of being laid off. In fact, they issued a WARN Act notice to their employees, which is a 60-day notice of an impending layoff. They're expected to lay off at least 400 other 800 employees working on the space launch system and are apparently actively negotiating with their customer, NASA, as to where to redeploy some of their employees. Maybe other programs shut down activities. I don't know. So the word is not official that SLS is being terminated, but this is a big indicator. Also, I've got word that there's some big announcement coming out on Blue Origin's side talking about a big layoff there too. And it's not just Boeing involved in this. There's many thousands of people that are working the space launch system, contractors too. Boeing is just a prime contractor, but there's also NASA, which has direct oversight on this program, and NASA has a lot of subcontractors supporting them. As you may know, I used to be amongst that crowd myself. I used to be working avionics system safety on the space launch system, and I have carried live launches of the live launch of the space launch system here on this channel from the console perspective, and also a test engine motor test firing, I think two or three of those at the Stennis Space Center. So let me kind of get into this. I'll have to find the right screen here, guys. Give me a second. And I'm going to do a share screen on some of the activities related to this. Find the right one. This is it, I think. There we go. So, yes, Friday. It said with less than an hour's notice, Boeing's vice president and program manager of the Space Launch System rocket, Dan Dutcher, called an all-hands meeting. And at this all hands meeting, this is Ars Technical that this came out in. He gave them that 60-day notice of the WARN Act. I had gotten a similar notice myself a couple of times. Once when I was working Space Station Freedom for Grumman, that had the original integration contract for that, and we got shut down. So I've been here. I know what it feels like. I even had one when I worked on the predecessor to the Space Launch System, the Ares program, which I just barely survived getting laid off from that one. So, guys, what the Dutcher told the employees at Boeing in a highly scripted, as many of them reported, announcement, and he did not take any questions, by the way. He said the following. He said, to align with revisions to the Artemis program and cost expectations, today we informed our Space Launch Systems team the potential for approximately 400 fewer positions by April 2025. And they said this will require a 60-day notices of involuntary layoff to be issued to impacted employees in the coming weeks in accordance with the Worker Adjustment and Retaining Notification Act. That's the WARN Act that I mentioned. He said, we will be working with our customer. No, he said, we are working with our customer and seeking opportunities to redeploy employees across our company to minimize job losses and retain our talented teammates. Now, that's the key words. He says, we are working with our customer. This seems to indicate that this has come from the customer side, that indeed there will be some form of a layoff and that they are aware of this. Hoping to pull up the chat here on my live, on my laptop. Anyway, I don't know. I'll have to go to the computer. I'll chat in a little bit, guys. So we're going to go all into this in a minute, and we're going to talk about what all this means beyond this. So apparently this is to align with the 2026 budget from President Trump. So maybe he is picking priorities that are downplaying the lunar program, maybe even eliminating it. We don't know. The Space Launch System rocket apparently doesn't play such a big role in it. According to multiple sources, there's been quite a debate within the White House and NASA's senior leadership, to include this acting administrator, Janet Petro, about the future of the SLS rocket. and the Artemis moon program itself. So we don't know what all this means yet. Are we canceling the moon program? Each launch of this SLS rocket, I just reported on this, I think last video, the one before, is running about $2 billion. I think I did this on the why does it must drive fly a UFO. That was at least the thumbnail I had, but that was on that was about why don't we have some kind of a large anti-gravity program while we build rockets still. But anyway, that's a whole nother topic. But I gave the reasons why we're launching everything with rockets in that video. So we're still stuck with rockets, it seems, to do the heavy lifting as of yet. And maybe for some time, I don't know. But anyway, NASA should cut its losses, is what some of them are saying. Of course, in here, this article talks about it being a long delayed program, and that's true. It's cost about over $25 billion plus about $3 billion in ground infrastructure. This article is brought to you by Eric Berger. He's the senior space editor here in Ars Technica, and he's always been a fan for canceling the SLS program. So, that leaves a lot to be understood what he's saying here, and the fact that it's coming from him might have some. But this comes out in Reuters, too. Now, this Reuters article doesn't say anything different than the Ars Technical article. And this, so far, is our two primary sources of this information. But I am getting scuttlebutt from people that are on the Blue Origin team that they're expecting something there, too, with layoffs announced. Now, for those of you that don't know, the Space Launch System, that's this rocket right here. Get a picture of it. As you know, we've launched one mission, and it did fly successfully around the moon and return the Orion capsule to Earth. The Orion capsule, which was developed on a different program, actually had a lot of heat shield damage. And so they've been investigating that, and that's been part of the source of some of the delays. Of course, we also know Boeing is the prime contractor for this rocket, and they have a lot of questions, out there on Boeing because of their difficulty with their CST-100, their Starliner program, their own capsule, which has left 2 astronauts stranded on the space station. They have done a miserable job of that program itself, that one. But unlike the Orion capsule program, this rocket, the upper stage in particular, this all really actually started directly as a NASA in-house development under the Ares program. And so a lot of the avionics, a lot of the architecture of this rocket matches with what we had on the Ares program, which is the predecessor, which originally was going to have a separate cargo rocket and a separate crew rocket. And the crew rocket was going to be Ares 1, which was going to have one of these single stick solid rocket boosters as the first stage. And then this, the upper stage in here was going to be the upper stage for that. That's where a lot of the upper stage architecture came from, was the old Ares program. The Ares 5 would have been a lot larger booster even than this one. But in any event, this thing's on the chopping block, and we don't know how absolutely it's going to be cut, but the scuttlebutt is that they're not even going to fly the other rocket they've already built, which means it might be a big museum place. We do have 2 Saturn V's that were built to fly the moon that are laying, the one at the Kennedy Space Center and a hangar, and the other at the Johnson Space Flight Center. And we have the engineering development mock-up, which is still a full Saturn V at Huntsville at the Space and Rocket Center, and a mock-up standing up outside. Actually, the Saturn V cost more than the SLS, but it was the first-time rocket for going to the moon. And I guess there was more priority to going to the moon then, maybe, than there is now within the political system. But that might be a mistake, because then what was at stake was our ego in trying to beat Russia to the moon. And had we midway canceled that program, and this is something that Angry Astronaut posted earlier today, he made a statement that had we changed course in the middle and come up with a different booster, it would have probably been delayed first, and the Russians might have beat us to the moon. You might say, well, how would the Russians have done it? Well, the Russians did have their N1 rocket, which blew up on a pad a couple of times. They tried launching it when we were launching to the moon. They knew they were behind, and because we made it to the moon, maybe they just decided it wasn't worth the effort to continue to fix that program, as we had clearly beat them to the moon. Had we ran into difficulties, they might have been encouraged to have worked out their troubles and beat us there. And that might have, what political ramifications there would have been for that, I don't know. what that would have done for the future of the American space program is would have probably been really bad. We might not have ever had a space shuttle or a space station. Now, there are a lot of space advocates, believe it or not, people that want space developed, that are against this program, this SLS, just because it does cost so much. But there are also, I would say, military ramifications for not having made it if we fail with this program. For example, there's another article that just came out. This is called "The Case for More Money for Space," and it's talk about funding the Space Force at a higher level of funding because of the competition with the Chinese. But what I got to tell you guys is that this competition with the Chinese has got to have some special attention paid to it, because if they get to the moon first, we're going to be in deep trouble. Now, the Chinese are planning to land on the moon, they said, by 2030. And they're claiming that they're actually running ahead of that. So should the Chinese actually get to the moon before us, then the risk of that is the moon is the high ground. It is the moon. Let's see if I can open this. There we go. Now I can see the chat. The moon is the high ground, guys. The moon, from the moon, if you develop a device known as a mass driver or a coil gun, you can own Earth, literally. We're talking raster scan firing of projectiles upon the Earth like rain that would hit like the force of a mini nuke, each payload, or like a tactical nuke, maybe at least several tons of TNT at least. So this could be a very scary proposition. And the problem with switching horses at this point in time to some other booster or some other combination is that it takes time to re-gear. It takes time to reset things. Unless there's some big national priority and you do throw some money into it, this could put us at grave risk as a nation. I had started a presentation 2 years ago, and I'm going to have to dig it up to explain all of this, but it looked like these programs were secure, and SpaceX had been brought in to do the lander, and which I thought, well, they could do the whole thing if they really got at it, but they are running behind right now with their Starship program. And so they brought Bezos back in with Blue Origin to develop a lander because they realized that they needed two things. Both of them may be on the chopping block. We don't know the shape of what's coming here. So this isn't a matter of just flags and footprints or national pride and egos. We're talking about national survival. Because the ramifications of what the Chinese could do for the moon. I'm going to do a video on that. I'm going to have to do it now. I'm going to have to find my old charts. I don't know where they're at. I'm going to have to dig them up, brush them off, and present this, guys, because this is now critical, and the critical nature of it needs to be briefed and understood. Now, to be honest, there are people who have been trying to kill the space launch system. Some people called it the Senate launch system, the ones that were against it, and some even called it the Shelby launch system because it really survived because of Senator Shelby from Alabama, because he had a huge constituent that would be working on it. And you know, some of the political forces under Obama, to include Lori Garver, who was once the executive director, which is the top paid position, not the highest position, mind you, within the National Space Society. The highest position was a volunteer position, chairman of the executive committee, chairman of the policy committee, that actually would have been higher at that point. But she left that, and after she left the National Space Society, she really championed to the Obama administration as deputy administrator of NASA to cancel the Ares program. She succeeded. What she did not realize was the political groundswell, the contractor community, and the power of Shelby to come back and bring back the space launch system. Now, the space launch system was approved in 2010. Now, a little background. Why do we get such an old system? Well, this was part of the idea that they had all these contractors out there. Well, supposedly it was to save money, so we wouldn't have to develop a lot of new technology. We'd just reuse a lot of stuff. But integration of that did still cost a lot of money. But the whole idea was that these contractors needed to be employed, basically. You know, the Thiokol, which is now part of Northrop Grumman, it became Thiokol, became ATK, became Northrop Grumman because it got bought out and acquired. And then you had Boeing, Lockheed, all these big aerospace companies. At the time, there was a brewing full-fledged battle between the side that wanted to cancel SLS, and which was fairly powerful politically, and the side that would cancel the commercial side. So that you had both sides brewing. There was a competition between commercial and between SLS, as if it would be just one or the other. Senator Shelby was more powerful. Him and his constituency was actually more powerful than the other side. Their plans was that if SLS didn't go through, that they would do scorched earth and kill all commercial space that might have competed for it. And I knew this and knew that it would be ugly and thought we might wind up with nothing. So at that time, I was the chairman the policy committee of the National Space Society. I think at that point I was still chairman of the executive committee, which is the CEO of the National Space Society at that time. They reorganized their officers since, and the CEO and chairman of the executive committee position powers have been divided up. But I had all that under my hat at that one point in time, and I went as chairman of the policy committee into Senator Nelson's office right before his subcommittee was to make the critical decision on. Let's look at Senator Nelson. Back then, when he became the NASA administrator, but he was a senator at the time that I went in and briefed him. And in fact, he was let's see if I can get it to scroll down. Let's scroll up my hand here. He was the chairman. He was the chairman of, I'll pull it up here. Yeah, he actually flew on the Space Shuttle Columbia, as a congressman from Florida. But he was the chairman of the, let's see, it shows it here somewhere. Yeah, not Special Committee agent. Anyway, he was in the Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation, and it had the subcommittee on space. Where's that at? I'll sell that here. But anyway, be more specific about it. I do know there's a Senate committee, Senate Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee subcommittee on science and space. He was the chairman of that committee. The day after I was there to brief him, they were to debate this and to make their decision on the future of commercial space and NASA space. This debate was to be slogged out that day. I walked into Senator Nelson's office and met with his key space staffer, Colonel Paul Damphus, Marine Corps Colonel Paul Damphus. I brought him the paper, the draft that I had come up with. I had come up with a compromise, which made the position that you could have both. You didn't have to be scorched earth, because the commercial space and I drew the analogy of the commercial cargo program and commercial crew program for resupply of the space station that NASA was running. That was a small budget. And I made the case it don't have to be one or the other. You can actually have both. You can have your cake and eat it too. You can, the commercial program could be much smaller. And of course, the SLS program was going to be a huge program, bringing in all the big contractors. But I said that this would actually work, and you could have both programs. And Colonel Damphus grabbed my paper in his hand and shook it. Let me stop the share here. He grabbed my paper, my proposal, my write-up in his hand and shook it. He said, "I like this. I'm taking it straight to Senator Nelson." And he did. And Senator Nelson immediately adopted that. And he pushed that through the subcommittee, and it went through the Senate, it went through the House, and was approved. We got both programs. We probably would have had neither one for potential, or just the space launch system, which would have left us kind of in a lurch, given where we're going now. We actually, you needed all the government contractors busy, so they wouldn't attack the fledgling commercial space at that time. You got to remember, this is 2010. Back in 2010, SpaceX hadn't accomplished all the miracles it accomplished sense. They were still a fledgling company, and their flight reliability rate was somewhat less than absolutely spectacular. You got to remember, their first 4 flights, the first 3 failed. The company just barely survived. If they hadn't succeeded that 4th flight, the Falcon 1, there would be no SpaceX today. Elon Musk would be nothing. Maybe I helped create him. That's scary. Hello, Elon. Are you listening? Anyway, his success with SpaceX led to his success with Tesla and many other things going down the road and going forward. Oh, yeah. And I have met Elon twice, including before that, once and once after that. But I also had attended a workshop with Gwen Shotwell, who's really the person that runs SpaceX. Back before they flew any rockets, and JSC, a small workshop that ran for, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 days on commercial space, cutting and reducing the cost of space operations. There were just a handful of us in there, and yours truly, myself, was one of the early space commercial guys, because I also did the High Altitude Research Corporation on the side, and I had experience with low-cost space programs, developing hybrid rockets and launching them from balloons. And through our predecessor to that program called Halo, we actually won the Space Pioneer Award for launching our hybrid rocket into space. So, guys, you probably have seen some video on this channel, and you may have seen me interview Bill Brown and Tim Pickens, who's still active in the commercial space industry to this day, and I'll get him back on this channel. He's been a very innovative, bright young man. And so there's a lot to report in these areas. But the fact of the matter is that, I've seen these people from the get-go and been involved in this very much, from back from the political side, from the commercial side, and from the NASA side. I've seen all sides of this, and that's probably one of the things that kind of enabled me to go up with some credibility to Bob Demphis, because he knew me. He knew who I was when I walked in that room. He knew my position in the National Space Society, but he also knew my position with commercial space, and he knew my position early fledgling pioneer commercial space, nothing as big as the companies they got today out there, but he knew my positions within the NASA community too. So he knew I brought credibility to the table, and he liked my proposal. He went with it, and therein laid the foundation of SLS being approved and the program for commercial space. And so I think both were vital. We do need commercial space, because the government in the long run is not the way to go. Just at the time, we didn't have the experience, the base that for commercial space that has since been established by both SpaceX and now Blue Origin, since they've done their first commercial orbital flight of their New Glenn rocket. And hats off and congratulations to them for that. So in a nutshell, that's how things got there. But, Boeing's running, as prime contractor, and, expenses are going up. And so it's been a tough program. Some of it's been politically driven, and maybe the commitment hasn't quite, it's not quite where it was in the Apollo day, but maybe that's a mistake. Maybe the mistake is that we really and if we do refocus and go to another rocket, and there's other possibilities. There's no rocket currently that's man-rated with the capabilities of the Space Launch System. The Starship is a very powerful, at least the first stage booster, but it's not man-rated. Not yet. The Starship upper stage, we just saw it explode over Turcos and Caicos, in a Virgin Island area, just, explode in the sky. So they still have a lot of work to do on that. Now, that's all part of the engineering approach that SpaceX has of iterative engineering. That's what they expect, is to have failures early on and to work them all out. And you do learn a lot more from flying than you do from simulation. And so far, their program's been a whole lot cheaper. It's just taken some time to do all this development. Some of it is getting approvals from the FAA and this, that, and the other. But for them to turn around and with from where we're at today and beat the Chinese to the moon in 5 years, something big's got to happen if we're going to do that. And are we even going to try to do that? We should try to not allow China to be the sole nation on the moon, China and Russia, especially China. So just given what they can do, and they do know what they can do from the moon. There's no doubt about it. They're not stupid over there in China. So this is something that we've got to take into account, and this is why the moon program is very important. Now, maybe our architecture, having a gateway station, and that's probably a bunch of stuff we really didn't need, especially if you get something with the capabilities of a starship. Now, admittedly, a starship had to be refueled 10 times in orbit, which is kind of strange. And you probably was going to have to build a landing pad for it with something, because it would probably blow out all the regolith, and being top heavy, it would probably turn over and blow up on the surface of the moon. So something else has got to be done. Unlike Mars, where it can use aerobraking for a lot of its braking before it dissipates its final energy with the rocket boosters. On the moon, you got to dissipate all of that. So and then it would, it would basically, its engines will dig out a crater. So we got to get something up there beforehand. That's why Blue Origin might be the first lander that needs to land on the moon. So it's something to put a concrete pad down for that big Starship lunar version. Or you may have heard, I think he mentioned it on my channel here some couple of years, 2 or 3 years ago, maybe longer than that now. What's his name? Case Mars. I'm getting drawn blank right now. I know him well. He was my predecessor in the same position as chairman of the executive of the National Space Society. Somebody help me. I'm having a brain lock right now. I know him real well. Geez, but I can't remember his name at the moment. But anyway, he made the case that you have to have maybe a third scale SLS lunar lander might work. It wouldn't blow out as much. Geez, what is wrong with me? I can't think of the guy's name right now. I know his face. Seen him a million times. Anyway, funny. I used to say I can't wait till I got old, so I had an excuse for being forgetful sometimes. So in any event, I'm there now. So at least I claim an excuse. But anyway, all that said, I've seen the chat advance here. I don't know what's going on. So I'll check the chat room out here in a second, because we are live. So I will scan through the chat room in a minute. Trying to remember his name. Shoot. I know it too. It's crazy. It'll come to me later, right as soon as I end the video, probably. So Robert's his first name. Dr. Robert. Come on, Greg. Anyway. Oh, on another matter, though, just for your knowledge, this asteroid I did a report on the other day, a lot of people got mad. Oh, it's only 1% chance of hitting Earth. What are you talking about? Well, I did say in the video that probably once we got fuller understanding of the orbit, the odds would go down. But so far, they're still going up. Now the odds are 1 in 43 of it hitting. Look here. The odds of this asteroid, 2024 YR4, are now 1 in 43, which is over 2%, not 2.3 and some change percent chance of hitting Earth. Of course, that's still over 97% chance of not hitting Earth. And if it does, it's probably still will be over the Pacific, the Atlantic, or maybe in the jungles of Africa or South America. Let's hope it don't hit a populated area. If it does, but like I was saying in that video, we only got a couple months left to study this thing, and it's going to be like 4 years. If we want to do something about it, we got to be able to react in 4 years. Now we're going to be able to handle that, and going back to the moon in 5 years. I don't know, guys. There's a lot of challenges here. So, no, I'm not trying to scare people. I'm just trying to let them know what's cooking with this stuff. But anyway, that is what it is. And I've just been straightforward with the odds on that. So, I'm not sharing it. I thought I was sharing that. Hang on, let me do the share screen again. Ding, ding, ding. And I'll read chat. Oh, what happened here? There's my Zoom. Not my channel out off air here doing this. All these little funny controls. Ding, ding, ding. I think that's it. Yeah, there we are. Let's see. Yeah, they went up again. Like I said, ever since I've been looking at it, it's been going up. Well, we still have a 97.7% chance of it missing. That's right. That's true. All right, I got knocked off air. I don't know how that happened. Bob Zubrin, yes, Bob Zubrin. I know him well. So I can't believe I was forgetting his name. I know him, he knows me. Okay. All right, let's see what's in the chat room here real quick. We won't be long, guys. All the Sun, how you doing? New Days, Fazioli, Karen Lynn, John Edwards. All right, so let's see here. Cheers, there you go. Let's see. China is still need a heavy lift capability. Oh, they're developing a heavy lift capability. You know, Chinese economy could go awry. There could be the war with Taiwan that they're planning to pull up for. Then could go bad for them. There's still a lot of challenges either way you go at it. Hey, I see some new chats popping up. So, I mean, we got 29 logged in right now. Case must I have a spinning wheel. Okay. Hey, I got a spinning wheel, but it's not all put. I think I'm missing a few pieces. Are you talking about a spinner like you spin wool with? All right. Trump revokes Biden security clearances. Yes, he did. Hello. Hey, Brandy, how you doing? Good to see you. Haven't seen you live in the chat for a while. Well, it's all mods. At least all mods talking. We got 26 in the room now. Probably lost a few people when I had that little outage. I know this. I'm actually talking to you through a Starlink, through a SpaceX Starlink. That's what my link is through, SpaceX. Elon. Maybe I helped make him, and he's helping to keep me going here. I don't know. So he's a dynamo of his own. But if they hadn't succeeded the fourth launch of the Falcon 1 rocket, they would have been in big trouble. Big trouble. He said he bet the company on it. Fortunately, they did succeed. I'm glad to see what they've accomplished. I am a fan of where they're going and what they're doing. I'm a fan of what Blue Origin's doing. We need more than one game in town. And we've got, of course, the United Launch Alliance has their Vulcan rocket, which has a Centaur upper stage. Now, it's possible with a combination of a Falcon 9 Heavy and the Vulcan launching the Centaur, you can meet in orbit and put together some kind of architecture to get to the moon. Now, I could have put up a presentation that I did back to the National Space Society, and we had what was called the Great Space Debate. And I don't have that queued up right now. I probably could have pulled that up and found it, where I was actually advocating for using a lot of smaller rockets instead of a larger rocket like Space Launch System. And that was following basically some of the philosophy of the late Gordon Woodcock. Some of you may know of him. But in any event, guys, it is what it is. So let's hope that we do go to Mars, but we also make sure that we got something on the moon enough such that China can't seize the high ground. It's more of a military perspective than anything else. Plus, the moon is a good testing station for things going to Mars. You only got a 3-day trip there and back, and it's also a good potential resource for materials to go to the Mars. But Mars is not an economic destination. You don't build an economy going to Mars. You can build an economy in cislunar space and Earth orbit using the resources of the moon. So in terms of practical purposes, the moon has a lot to offer, a lot. China knows that. So if you're looking at it from a pure business standpoint, the moon makes a lot of sense. Helium-3, raw materials for maybe building space power satellites like China wants to do, and also the prospects for platinum group metals from low energy impacts of metallic asteroids, nickel iron asteroids on the moon. So there are many things like that could be of great value on the moon itself. So I do hope that we do go back to the moon. All righty, guys. I think I've said enough for one night here. We've been on here, I don't know how long, but Sergeant Sly Dog, how you doing? Your audio is cutting out. Well, that shouldn't be. There must be something wrong with the connection. I don't know why. So, case from Mars. Yeah, Bob Zuber. Yeah, I knew Bob Zuber. Robert Zuber. Dr. Zuber. Anyway, guys, I want to thank everyone for watching and check my links out. Go back and check out some of the other videos I did on this channel. This channel has been demonetized because of inactivity on it. I didn't know they'd do that at YouTube. So I need a lot of watch hours. So go back and watch some other videos. I've just done a video on the Army's anti-gravity program. I've done a video on the on the well, why is it, given if we've got antigravity, why don't we have little UFOs buzzing around everywhere? Basically, why doesn't Elon have a UFO, for example? Why is it being suppressed? I did a video on that topic. I've done videos on. I had the video with Amy Eskridge doing a survey of various anti-gravity technologies in front of some of the world's most advanced propulsion engineers, and no one was giggling or laughing. And I've done plenty of videos on conventional rocket propulsion, including discussions of the F1 engine, air turbo rockets, and light cells, and many other propulsion technologies. So go back and check some of my videos. You will also find videos of the launch of the SLS rocket and engine test firings. And I've even covered some other launches here on this channel. So I hope everybody can go back and see some of that. And for that, I am going to call it a night. 5 by 5 now. I'm glad to hear that. But we are going to go. So I want to thank everybody for watching.